Uh, Hi, I'm James Lee. I'm a filmmaker. I'm also a theatre director. How I got started? I think I got started about in like 15, 16, 17 years ago. In mid 90s. I was a graphic designer before that, so I always wanted to do film. But of course, back in those days, there's no college or university offering multimedia courses or filming courses or even animations like you guys got today. So what I did was I went to theatre first. I worked in theatre, learned directing and acting from in the theatre. Then slowly I proceeded into television, doing Chinese TV drama and Malay language TV drama. And it's only I think in 2000 I started making my own films and short films. That's actually how I got started. Okay. I think the way filmmakers make films these days are very different compared to my time and even in the early 90s. Thanks to the technology, I think it's easier now for people who's interested in films, especially young people who wants to make films. It's easier. It's 100 times more easier than when we first started. Because when we started, it was very expensive, and the technology is like not as good as today. So my only advice is, unlike last time, I think because film is very expensive, especially the time when you're working with 35mm. That's why to be a director, you need a lot of experience. Actually, in Korea, unless you are 40 years old, you can't be a director. Okay, only in Malaysia and other countries, young people can be directors because I think in Korea they still have a very high standard of quality maintained. Because director, you're actually running an entire feature film shoot with so many money in it. You're working with so many people under you. I mean, you don't hire a young guy to run a big company. So I think in Korea they still. That's why when we go there in film festival, they were so surprised that we are like in our early 30s and we are directors. They're like, wow, you're so young. But in Korea, there's no such thing. But now I think it's changing. Slowly it's changing thanks to the technology. So I think it's different because I think last time when you're dealing with such a big budget and 35mm, you need a director who's very experienced. If a director has no experience in filming, in directing, I think it's very hard for him to even direct a film. Even people want to fund him because when you're shooting 35mm, you can't see what you shoot. They're negative. So once you shot it, you have to process it. Then you can only see the footage at night or the next day. And that's how our films are made in the 90s. Even now, I think some people who use film, that means you can't see what you're shooting most of the time. You have to work with a lot of people by trust and their craft. But now it's different. Now I think because what you shoot, what you see is what you get. And you can still tweak it in post afterwards. So it's easier. So you don't even have to visualize and imagine what your film will look like. You can actually see it as you shoot it. If you have a bit more budget, you can even have a on-set editing machine, a simple Mac, to assemble the footages. So actually, you're actually making the film as you're shooting. So it's very fast. So actually, it saves a lot of trouble and time. But I think what the young people need to realize is they cannot compensate a good film with all this technology and this new way of making film. Because at the end of the day, it's still about good story and good script, which I think at the moment sometimes we lack of. I'm not saying only just the young filmmakers or student films. I mean even by professional standard, if you look at our local film industry, a lot of the commercial films that they charge you 10 ringgit per person to go in. Even the script is very weak. I'm not saying that I have a very strong script with my film, but I think generally in Malaysia we don't give so much focus on script writers or screenplay writers in Malaysia, unlike in other countries where they have you can make a living as a screenplay writer or a script writer. But in Malaysia we have lack of that. People can't really survive writing scripts because of I think because of the size of the industry, and the second because I think a lot of people put very little focus and doesn't understand how important is a script or a job of a script writer. So I think for students, because the technology is here today, I think you can waste as much time as you want on the latest camera, the latest audio equipment and software, but don't forget to put some time into writing, because this is essentially the life of a film. Without the script, You can have the best camera in the world, but your film will still won't work because your script is bad. Um, yeah, so I think my advice is try to focus more on writing, on script and storytelling. Because the technology always progress, always being upgraded, and you can't chase the technology seriously. I stopped chasing the technology already like 5 years ago because it's going too fast. Even though it's now very cheap compared to those days, but it's going too fast. So I think my advice to students now: use what you've got now. Update yourself about the technology, but don't be too over focused on the technology. Because as a filmmaker, you can't keep up all the way on it unless you are a technical based filmmaker, like you are a DP, editor, or audio engineer. Then I understand you have to constantly keep yourself up to date with the technology. But if you're talking about filmmaker as a director and scriptwriter, I think sometimes even without a laptop, a pen and paper, you can still write a damn good script. And I think that is the most valuable thing filmmakers must have, because if like one day there's no more tools, I can still work. The future of the local film industry, I think in all industry, in all countries, whether it's a developed nation or a developing nation, it can always only progress. It can always go up. It can't go down. I mean, it can go down literally, but I think from where everybody wants to go, they always hope it'll go up. I'm not saying it can't go down, but I think from the way we are going now with the technology and such amount of money being invested into the industry by private investors, a lot more people are making films. I think I can see it can progress, but maybe in a very slow rate, because I think the quality of the film still is a matter. It's not quantity. I hope the progress will be more progressive, like we see more quality films being produced and made locally. So at least you build back the confidence of the local audience. Local audience is actually very forgiving. They will support a local film if it's good. If it's bad, that's it. They'll go back to their diet of Hollywood films. Because at the end of the day, if you compare to Hollywood films and the local films, you compare it in a layman terms, right? Like, it's 10 ringgit. If I pay for this, what do I get, right? The Hollywood films will always be the local films because you get stars, you get special effects, you get big scenes of explosions, you get so many things. Compared to a local film, you just get actors talking, in comedy situation or dramas. You can't actually compare it like that. But I think it's sad because sometimes the audience have to compare like that because the local films sometimes the quality is so bad or the story is not interesting. There's nothing to watch, because and due to the economy situation, the 10 ringgit means a lot to a lot of people. Okay, maybe not to people working, but maybe to students or other people. The 10 ringgit before they watch a movie, it means a lot. Why am I going to pay 10 ringgit to watch this movie, and so it's going to waste 2 hours of their life to watch a film that's bad. That's why people are very pissed off when they watch something they have to pay. That's why my independent films usually I do it the screening in a very different method. It's through donation or I bring it to schools and to institutions or where we share. So it's a very different mindset. Still, some people will think like, wow, it's too hard to watch or waste of time. But so can you imagine if you pay 10 ringgit going to a shopping mall to buy entertainment with 10 ringgit and you get a very bad deal. It's the same. It's the same like when you pay 10 ringgit for certain food, it has quality. Why you pay 1 ringgit for nasi lemak? Okay, but I'm not saying that 1 ringgit nasi lemak is not good because sometimes nasi lemak can be really damn good, very famous, even though their price is very low. So in terms of that, I think you have to be very aware of I think the movies. What I'm trying to say is how I see it, that the local industry will never beat Hollywood films at their same level. We can't really actually hope to even compete with them in the same level. We gotta be smart about it. We can make our own nasi lemak, but make sure the nasi lemak is really good, really outstanding until when people eat it, they say, "Wow, it's damn good. I want my friend to have one." I think the movies operate same like that. So we have to. I think to progress and compete, so we have to be really smart and really care about the product we churn out, and not to churn out really shitty products, or you'll end up like Hong Kong. Hong Kong used to be like the king of filmmaking in Asia. It churned out loads of film per year in the 90s, and now there's virtually less than 10 films per year. But when you see nowadays, when Hong Kong have less than 10 films per year, their film is actually very good quality. I mean that they're not really superly good or what, but you can see that the filmmakers put more effort, the investors put more money into the films, and it become much more. You watch Hong Kong films today, they are not as bad as last time because the quality is already improved because the quantity has been cut. And you can see the same thing in Malaysia. I think to avoid things like this, we should really concentrate on quality instead of quantity.